Hello model car fans, welcome to the Muscle Car Modeler. My name is Ral, and this week I'm just getting you updated on the start of my Revell 69 Chevelle SS, my mangled box. If you saw how this was shipped to me in the bubble wrap bag, and the box was just smashed, but somehow it survived. I know I was mad at first, but once I opened it and I got lucky and saw there was really no damage, so if you saw that, I'm continuing on. But I just wanted to show you what I do when I get started on these and how I do it. As you can see, I remove everything off of the sprues, and I do some pre-assembly since I like to airbrush everything. So like the rear axle, I assembled it, I put the upper control arms and the cover on. The springs are already molded into the rear axle, so that's how this is already set up. And then I lay everything out, and so I put the fan shroud on the radiator, and I glued the seats together, so they're ready, and I'll paint them. I'll do some final sanding of anywhere the seams are on some of the stuff just to clean them up, but just do some pre-assembly. And then the console, I'm not even sure I'm going to use the console at this point, but I put the console and I glued the piece on the back here. It's a separate piece if you're familiar with this kit. But everything that's right here in this, I plan to paint semi-gloss black. Oh, and I glued the cross member in, and I also glued the front springs in place. So those are already together. But I got everything here is going to be semi-gloss black. I got the tires over here. I was playing with I pulled out some of the Yenko Camaro wheels because I've got parts kits. So I grabbed a set of the Yenko wheels. They don't quite fit these tires though, so it's not really gonna work out with these, but I'll see about digging out a set of Goodyear AMT tires and see how they fit on that. And then the chassis is over here. I'm gonna prime this, and I'll probably do the overspray on the sides a little bit. Since I got a separate frame, I kind of want to add some extra detail that way with this one. So when I'm going to prime the entire thing, gray primer, and then I'll shoot a little bit of color on the sides. But the inner fenders from here forward is going to be black. The firewall is black, so GM really didn't have a clean line right there. And then I'll paint the gas tank. And then since the floorboard is right here, I'll paint all of this. And if I do take the console off, I'll remove these mounting points. Haven't decided. Since a lot of Yenkos were 427 Yenkos were bench seat, but some of them were buckets. I think a few of them had consoles, so I'm just indecisive on that part right now. I haven't made my mind up fully on what I'm going to do. But I removed the molded in Revell logo down here. I removed that, and it also had GM and TM molded right here. I sanded those off, and then I got the body. I just cleaned it up real carefully, and I sanded off that piece that was molded in right here, the extra tab. I sanded that off, and I was cleaning it up. There isn't any emblems to move, but I glued these on the back, so they're glued in place. And I removed the rear bumper, and just making sure everything fits fairly well, which it does. I mean, this is all pretty much right out of the box, but I'll get some primer on this and see how this is going to look. But I'm going to shoot all of this primer. So this is all the body parts that are going to need to be painted body color. Like I said, this is semi-gloss black. Here's the few pieces of chrome right here. The fuel pump, the carburetor, and the fan clutch. They're chrome. I'm going to strip the chrome off of them, and they're going to get painted the appropriate colors. The engine, you got to glue the engine together. But anyway, I glued the heads on, the water pump on, and the block halves together. I'm leaving the oil pan separate because you can get paint in here much better than if I glued it in place. It's hard to get the paint in there, the orange. So on ones that are this style, I'll paint this separate. I'll paint the whole block orange with the heads orange. This particular one I'm going to do it with iron heads, so the heads are going to be orange. And then I'll paint this separate, and then I'll paint the black in here, and then the steel for the transmission. And then I'll glue that in place later. Now, I'm not 100% sure yet, but I'm pretty sure the intakes were aluminum. So I'm going to paint the intake aluminum. Here's the alternator. I'll paint it aluminum. I'll hand paint the brackets black. And then I've got the exhaust manifolds here. They're going to be steel, and then along with the master cylinder, the exhaust pipes that'll be painted. And then here's the oil filter. That's going to be different color, probably white or blue. And then the shocks and the booster gold. So I separate everything, and then I'll airbrush all these parts and get them all ready. Then I'll start hand painting the detail, but I like to take everything off the trees and clean up all of the mounting pieces and any of the flash. So there's hardly any flash on this kit, but I went over all of that. So that's where I'm at the moment with this stuff. There's really not going to be any fab work involved in this, so I'll get started on some of my painting, and then I'll update this video. And most of the chrome I left alone, and if I continue with the Yenko, I'll sand the SS emblems off and clean them up as best as I can to remove them off of both bumpers. But so that's where I'm at the moment, so stay tuned and see where this goes. Alright, so I went out, and as you can see, I got some of my preliminary airbrushing done. So, my somewhat assembled, partially started assembled frame. Shot that, so see that's covered in semi-gloss black. And then, all the pieces I removed, I mounted them to tape, as you can see right here. I just roll tape backwards and I stick it right to the cardboard. And then I'll paint one side, and then I'll flip it over and I'll paint the other side and stick it to usually fresh tape, because once you paint on it, it's hard to stick it right back on it because the paint keeps it. So all of this is shot semi-gloss black. Seats came out nice, dash. So I shot all of this. I'll remove all of these off of the piece of cardboard here and start laying them out. Same thing here. Here's some of the interior pieces. So there's the door panels, the rear seat, and the core support. So I shot all of those semi-gloss black. So those are ready for start getting some detail done. I didn't do these yet. I'll do the same thing. And then here's the exhaust pipes. Shot them with some silver, so they're painted silver. And this I use a rattle can just for simplicity, and it just airbrushing the exhaust pipes kind of tedious, and I kind of cheat on these. And this is some sort of aluminum paint I found that kind of looks like aluminized piping that I like, so I sprayed that. And then here's the body parts. Here's the hood, the front thing, and I shot the engine, so the engine is now in primer. This is going to get a coat of orange next. And the intake is aluminum on this one. The heads are iron on the L72 427. And then also for 69, this is body color, not silver. So the engine and the pan are now ready to be shot orange. So that's going to be my next round. I'm going to shoot these orange. But the chassis, liking how the floor pan is coming out. Prime that, that's all ready. And like I said, this is going to be blacked out, and then I'll black inside the wheel wells a little bit, and then but I'm going to shoot the color on here. But first I got to get the primer on, because most of this is primer. Chevelle's, the whole underside was actually primer, and it's generally accepted that they were gray. And then like on the underside of my real car, some of it was actually bare steel. Primer didn't even get on it, but our particular car was undercoated heavily, which is kind of weird being an Arizona car. But so this is pretty much, this is primed and ready, and then when I do the color, I'll do the color on the airbrush sideways, and I'll do a bunch of light coats. So I'm looking forward to that. But I also shot the body. We'll move this off to the side here. So here's the body. This is just a 2x4 and some coat hanger that I mounted on a simple little rack. That's just what I use. I've got coat hangers a couple different ways, but I made 3 of these, and they actually work pretty nice, and they're nice and heavy, so I don't have to worry about them blowing over. But sometimes you got to bend these in or out and adjust for them. But I got it high enough to where you can shoot on the underside of it with the airbrush. Because I have another one I mounted lower, and I found out real quick if you're trying to shoot on the inside, it's kind of a pain. So I made this one taller, and it works really nice. I haven't done any body work to this yet other than gluing the caps back on here. So the mold lines that are here, they're there. They're very faint, but they really stood out as soon as I shot the primer on it. So I'm going to do some body work to this and get more of this going. But really pleased with how this Revell kit is. And then I shot the whole inside primer, and I'll black out the headliner, and since the headliner is actually in it, which you can see in this picture in that angle. But this will end up being a pretty quick build. But I'll start taking some of these dried parts out and get them in my box. And then while I do this stuff, here's a little sneak peek of one that you haven't seen in a while. Here's my 72 Charger. I glued this on because I'm doing the vinyl top, the 3/4 vinyl top. And so I glued that on, and I shot some more primer on it since I had primer in the airbrush for this. I still got work to do, but I'm pretty happy with this. But here's a little sneak peek on this project that's kind of been sitting. Some of my projects I haven't updated in a while. Some of them is for other reasons like lack of paint. And I actually went to a couple hobby shops to find more of the Testors primer that I use, and one of them actually had it. The paint's just getting harder to find here locally. I could order it online, but some of the online places are out too. But I decided last ditch, I was running around today, I was going to check, and I ran into one of the hobby shops actually had it. So I bought it. So some of these are kind of moving along. I got some other projects I need to update too. But yeah, stay tuned and follow along with this one, because this one probably go pretty quick, other than I may have a challenge here or there. I got to find my photo etch parts for some of the other emblems, but I know I have extra photo etch from a Model Car Garage from one of my 69 Camaros. But I know I threw that photo etch in one of the project boxes, and I've got a bunch of them. So I just need to dig into my stash, find whichever one has it, and go from there. So thank you for watching and subscribing and tuning in, and you guys, you have a wonderful Saturday, and I'll see you again.